All right, good afternoon, everyone. First off, thank you all for joining us today for our most recent installment in our ongoing webinar series. This one's going to be, as you know by now, how to plan and budget future fiber builds using GIS. I know this can be an extremely broad topic, so of course we had to choose an area of focus for today. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and here in just a moment kind of break down what the next 30 minutes or so are going to look like together. First and foremost, please everyone know that we are recording this. We'll make that available both through our YouTube channel and on our support site. So you'll be able to come back and rewatch, and we'll be sending out a link to that, I believe this coming week, this coming Monday. So you'll all have access to that. And also, I have my co-host, Gray Pittman here, who will be moderating any questions that come in. So with any time left at the end, I'll be answering those questions. So feel free to send those in, and he'll be taking a look at those as we go. For those of you that don't know me, my name is DJ Henrique, project engineer here for GEOGRAPH Technologies. And again, thank you all for being here. Let's get started. So in today's presentation, go ahead and take a look at what we're going to cover. First off, we're going to look at when it comes to this topic, what challenges we face in the industry when it comes to estimating and planning for network expansion. Then we're going to take a look at what tools you may very well already have available to you to help overcome those challenges that we just talked about. We'll take a look at what insights we can gain from the data that's available utilizing those tools. And then I'm going to go through a demonstration and show you a sample workflow so that you can actually see those tools in action. So let's start off here. How many times have you been asked whether or not you have the capacity in your existing network to supply broadband access to, let's say, an upcoming subdivision or a new commercial complex that's going in? If you were asked, how would you now currently go about collecting that data and providing an answer? How many people would have to get involved to get to that answer? How long would the process take? Maybe the most important question I have for you here is that data even going to be accurate once you do go out and collect it all and present it? So for one of our good friends in the industry, the answer to that last question was a huge, big, fat, embarrassing no. I'm not going to call them out, but they might be here on the line with us. So I'm going to kind of, share a little bit of that story and a little bit of the backstory of where the tools that we're going to discuss today came from. So first and foremost, the tool, many of you may or may not know, was actually a request from another user, right? It was a CrescentLink Desktop user. And they came to us with a particular corner case that we had not heard before and asked, it would be really great if we were able to do this, right? They had a very particular use case. And so we worked with them and were able to create this tool that we'll be talking about later that helped them solve a particular problem. We made it available in the software and pretty soon realized that this was useful for a lot of our users. It wasn't just specific to that one organization and their one particular use case. And I'll tell you, one of the places that it made the biggest impact is we had an organization reach out to us. It was actually a campus environment organization. And they reached out and they had recently had a pretty embarrassing thing happen. Some of you may have heard this story already. But so on their campus, they were looking to provide broadband connectivity up to a new building. And if any of you know about the politics of this type of situation, this building has a donor that's donated a lot of money to get their name on that building. A lot of people, president of this particular organization is going to be there for a big ribbon cutting ceremony. We have the date, the time, everything's in place. And in the final steps of construction, right before the kind of grand reveal, the telecom group there realizes that they don't have the capacity that they thought they did. Their network was in kind of an older system. It was a little difficult to keep up with, to update, to track. And so when they were asked, as far as they knew from their current records, they had the availability or the capacity, and then come to find out they didn't. This was hugely embarrassing to that group, and they immediately set out to find a solution to make sure that that didn't happen again. So that's just one kind of area where the tool that I'm going to show today can help you avoid that in the future. All right, so let's look at some of these challenges kind of in list format here that, you know, a lot of our providers are facing. So, you know, after a lot of years now at this point in time of the group here at GEOGRAPH, working with our partners at many different organizations, we really have had a unique opportunity to see, you know, most of the organizations are facing the same few challenges. And once those have been addressed, they're able to get back to what really matters the most to them. And for those of you that joined me in the last webinar, I repeated almost this exact same sentence because we believe it. And what matters the most is offering exceptional service to their communities. And so what we've done is broken down this list of challenges in this particular circumstance to the top 3. And we're going to go ahead and address those now and look at each one of them a little more closely. So challenge number 1 is going to be poor visibility of fiber cable utilization based on circuit level connectivity. In other words, in a given cable segment, how many fibers are in use, and conversely, how many fibers are available, right? At its most simple term. Challenge number 2 is in identifying potential bottlenecks and asset congestion throughout your network. So at what point does high fiber utilization become a concern and possibly trigger to let us know that we need to start planning for growth? And the third challenge is how do we take all of that information we have and use it to inform our decisions moving forward? It's great to have all of this data, right? We live in a world of data, but how do you take all of that data and inform your decisions? So thankfully, there are tools out there, and many of you here right now already have access to these tools, whether you know it or not. That's what we're finding a lot of time is that a lot of our users don't know some of these tools exist, which is why we wanted to share it with you today. But we're going to take a look at the tools that you'll need for this particular scenario to help you tackle and overcome these challenges that we're looking at. So first and foremost is going to be Esri's ArcGIS Desktop. And you can use either standard or advanced here. So this is going to be the platform that kind of everything else centers around in this particular workflow. So if any of you are really new to this and aren't currently running on the Esri platform, you know, what we'd love for you to do is go ahead and reach out to us, you know, at the end of the day or later in the week or whenever you have a chance. And we'd like to help you get the conversation started with some of the great folks over there at Esri. You know, I think that you might be amazed at all of the things that you're able to do when you center your operation on this platform. Next, what we're going to need is the CrescentLink Desktop extension. And so what this extension is going to do is run on top of Esri's ArcGIS platform. Again, those of you that don't know, CrescentLink offers this set of communication network specific tools, including several that we'll use for documenting and visualizing network capacity. I do want it to be of note here that for those of you that are current CrescentLink users, if you are on an older data model, there is potential that we need to make a small schema change to add a couple of required fields to your, for those of you that know, your SDM cable feature class so that we can make all of this work. And finally, and this may be an obvious one, but I do want to go ahead and mention it, we need to make sure that we already have our current network infrastructure and assets, including fiber level connectivity, accurately mapped and up to date in our system. All right, so once we have all of those things in place, it really only takes a few clicks to see the information that we're trying to get to. So we have our fiber availability heat map. And what this is going to do is give us a bird's eye view of our entire network so that we can very quickly and easily identify areas that might be becoming either over or underutilized. And then our cable usage summary, which helps us dive deeper and gather more information about a specific span of cable. All right, so let's go ahead and set the scene here. I'm gonna pull up my demo data set. Many of you have seen this before. So in setting the scene, what we're doing here is let's kind of put ourselves in the position. What is it right now? We're approaching the end of August. So it really is about that time that we'd be looking at setting our budget for next year's construction season. Maybe that begins in the spring for you as it does for many. We need to go ahead and get our budgets in place. And one of the things that we know that we need to include is a budget for capital improvements, right? So that way we can, again, when construction season comes around, make some improvements to our existing fiber network. Our area is growing. New subdivisions are going in all the time, growing probably faster than we can count. And what we want to do as a provider, again, to give that exceptional service to our community, is stay ahead of that growth. And to do that, we often need to make upgrades to our fiber routes. So let's take a look at how the fiber fill batch tool can help us make decisions on where we should focus those resources. So the first thing that I want to do is look in my network and find out where in my network is my fiber capacity over, let's say, 70%. And so there's a couple of tools that we're going to use for that. On the setup side of this, what you will need to have done is, again, add those fields to your data if you don't have a newer version of our data model. And then we're going to run this fiber fill batch tool. The way that this tool works is it runs through your network and runs a trace on every single cable in the network, and it returns some numbers for you. So in this particular case, let's take a look. You can see some of these fields down here in our attributes, how many fibers are fully connected, half connected, or not connected inside of our network. And then what date was this report last run? What we're able to do is utilize those numbers that we just looked at to find out exactly what our utilization is. And so I'm going to go over here and open my I'm going to open my table of contents. And what you'll see is that I have created a copy of my fiber cable that did the symbolization based on the percentage of circuits that are used within my cable segment. So if I want to quickly see in this map where I might be over 70% capacity, all I have to do is turn that layer on. And look, I can see 3 areas right away. So I have an area right here. I have another cable run down here on the south side, and then another one just slightly northeast of that. So I've now identified 3 areas that I want to take a closer look at, do a little more investigation. So let's go ahead and do that. First, I'm going to jump down to this first area, and I have that bookmarked for us, but this is going to be our George Crossing fiber to the home network. So if I come in here and we can see that the cable leading into this particular fiber to the home network is at about max capacity, what I might notice is, well, we've pretty much filled our take rate for this particular area. Even more so, if I were to, let's say, run a cable summary report on this area, and we talked about that report, what I might see is that the way that I'm actually symbolizing my in use shows that I have pulled enough cable. I've just marked it as in use to actually service all of the locations within this particular neighborhood. And again, you can see if this is a report any of you are not familiar with, a lot of information here. We can see those metrics that we were talking about earlier about the fill. We can see our fiber numbers that are available, as well as any count that we have on there. So a lot of good information on that report when you're looking to do a little extra investigation on an area. What I'm noticing is this is probably not an area that's worth my time or resources to continue to build. So maybe I'll jump back out and take a look. So I have 2 other areas that I want to look at. Well, the next one maybe is the Shamrock Road area down here. So again, I'll go ahead and bookmark straight down to Shamrock. And as I take a look, it looks like we've started construction on some areas to go out to a few fiber to the home neighborhoods. So as I come through here and I take a look more closely, what I know maybe from my knowledge of my network is that I, even though it look like I'm, running short on capacity, can probably take care of what's here at the moment. I would like to overbuild at some point in time. This is definitely a contender, depending on, you know, what we find out at the next location. So I'm going to take George Crossing off the table, Shamrock, Contender. We'll keep it on the list. We'll go back out and take a look. So I have one final place over here I want to look at. And for that, I'm going to go down to the 7 Mile Beach area. And so as we take a look at 7 Mile Beach, and I come down and I look at my capacity of this cable, what I notice is we haven't even started construction into this fiber to the home neighborhood. I know for a fact that we have a giant subdivision going in over here and another giant subdivision that's about to start getting built out here towards the end of this run. So this is an area where I could potentially see, you know, a really nice return on investment if I were to do an overbuild here. So now the question becomes, I've kind of made it down to two, you know, which one is going to have the greater return on investment between these two, knowing that new growth is coming to this particular one, but it's also a lot longer of a span, right? So now I want to start looking at what would the cost be for this, for either one of these. So if we were to do a high level cost comparison to what we've brought it down to, which is Shamrock and 7 Mile Beach, right? How would we go about doing that here with these tools? So one simple way is to utilize Project Planner. So, you know, if I were again to ballpark it between planning, construction, labor, materials, let's just say all in, we spend about $75,000 per mile to overbuild fiber with a 144 cable. So what that works out to, if you do the math, is about $14.20 per foot. Well, I know that I have a budget of about $300,000. If I go much over that, there's a good chance that I'm not going to get this budget approved. So, you know, I definitely want to stay within those parameters as well on this project. And also want to make sure that my return on investment's high. So how would we go about using Project Planner to figure all these things out? Well, first, let me turn my cables back on. So first, I'm going to go ahead and turn on Project Planner. And I've gone ahead and started a project for us. So let's take a look at this Tibbetts Highway is actually the 7 Mile Beach area. So I'm going to go in and take a look at that one first. So let's go ahead and load in a project, and you can see I haven't done anything with this particular project yet. So I'm going to kind of go back up to the head end here of this particular project. Go ahead and select that so we can see that BFO 24 that I have running through here. And so we can see everywhere that that runs kind of from a bird's eye view. Well, let's see what it would cost at about $14.20 to do an overbuild here. So to do that, I'm going to zoom in so I can get a little closer here. I'm going to drop a construction operation back right up here at the front side. Now, what I'm going to do is go ahead and select that cable and pull it in to my project. You can see there's that BFO 24. Now, I mentioned that we were going to do a 144, but again, this is high level cost estimation, right? So all I'm going to do is go in and add my $14.20 per foot at this project level. And now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a unit summary, and I can export this out, of course. But from a high level, we're looking at about $262,000 if we wanted to do an overbuild at this particular location. And we've already kind of noted the amount of return on investment. So we're a little under budget of what we feel like we can get approved. And it looks like we're going to have a pretty high ROI. We can, of course, go in and investigate further on that later. So now let's do the same thing down at our other location. So I'm going to jump back over to Shamrock Road. Let's go ahead and change our project over. And let's come in. And so this cable is split into a couple of different cable spans, which is why I really wanted to kind of highlight this one for you. So if I turn this on, we can kind of get a view of that cable again that we were talking about utilizing. And you can see that I have 1, 2, potentially 3 spans here that I really want to take into account in this particular piece. So what I'm going to do is once again, go ahead and drop an operation in my map. And now watch what happens as I add this cable. You can see there was 839 feet. Now we're going to add that segment, and then we're going to add that segment. And so now we've gotten up to about 7,600 feet here on this particular project. You know, we can add that next segment as well. And it will just keep adding, right? As long as the unit is the same. And now we're just going to do the exact same thing. We're going to go in and say, you know, $14.20 per foot. We have our total in there. Now, if I come in here and I do a unit summary again, now we can see that we're only at about 165,000 on that particular project. So it's going to be a good bit less expensive all said and done. But you know what? If I don't use the money that I have, I'm going to lose it. And from what I've seen, I feel like I'm going to get a greater return on investment on that other project up there at 7 Mile Beach. So now, of course, we would go in and maybe we would actually start, staking this project out, getting a much better idea of what the ROI would be for this project, what the actual cost would be. But this is just a quick and easy way to utilize these tools to kind of give you that direction to go utilizing your GIS platform. So, you know, I think for me, for my money, I would go ahead and start looking at doing an overbuild over here at 7 Mile Beach. And again, I can go right back. I can open that project up, get back to my unit summary. At this point in time, I can start adding staking sheets, right? Utilizing Project Planner. I can create a work order and start kind of stubbing this thing out and really getting a better idea of what I'm looking to do. So that is how I would utilize those tools in this particular scenario. Couple of things, you know, that you might want to note. Again, we were talking about writing on the Esri platform, so we do want to make sure that we're on a version that is compatible with CrescentLink. So we are supporting everything from 10.3.1 all the way up to 10.8 currently. You know, and then for those of you that aren't familiar, CrescentLink is an extension of Esri's ArcGIS. So once you've installed it, all we do is go in and turn the extension on. It's licensed to the user, so you're able to sign in and sign out. And what you get are these two toolbars here. And so with these two toolbars, you know, you're able to utilize a lot of these tools we talked about. And if you've missed it earlier, that fiber fill batch is a batch tool that we can run from here. Now, this is something that it does need to be run, and it runs a live trace. So depending on the size of your database is how long this could take to run. You know, typically a couple minutes maybe. However, if you do have an enormous database, it might be something you want to do, you know, at the end of the day, or update once a week or once a month. We see all different use cases. But once you have run that, that's what allows you the capabilities to do the things that I was showing just a moment ago. All right, so what I am going to do at this point in time is see if any questions came in. I'm going to ask Gray to let me know if anything's come in, that any questions anyone would like for me to address here.
Yeah, we did get a couple, DJ. You mentioned early on that you mentioned needing some particular fields to kind of utilize this tool and for it to render the information you're looking for. Question came in: how do you, or how would you add those fields that you mentioned earlier?
Good question. So again, if you're on an older data model, these fields potentially do not exist. This is you know, this tool has been around for a couple of years now, but you know, if you've been with us for longer than that, there's a good chance. So of course, this is a schema change. You would need to be the data owner if you're in enterprise. I'm on a file geodatabase here, so I'm going to show it at its most simple level, how you would add these fields. So I'm going to go over and I'm just going to open catalog from, you know, right here inside of ArcMap. And this is my demo data that I have. And then I've gone ahead and opened up SDM CrescentLink. I'm going to go down and find the SDM cable feature class here, and I'm going to go to properties. Oh, and it's already there. So you can see I'm on the fields tab. And within this fields tab, and I am editing, so I'm not going to be able to do this. You would want to not be in an editing session at the time. When you scroll down to the bottom of fields, you would actually be able to go in here and add the fields that are required. I do have some links that I'm going to share with you here in just a moment that will take you to a support article that shows these fields and the data type. You can also reach out to us if you have questions. But essentially what we're looking at is this fully connected half connected, not connected, total connected, percent available, percent used, and the utilization date. And so once you've added those fields, that's what allows us, when we take a look at a cable segment, and then we go to the attributes, to be able to see that information. So again, feel free to reach out to us, and I'll hit a slide here in just a minute as we wrap up that'll kind of show you where to go on our support site if you're interested in adding those on your own. Great question, though. Thank you.
Yeah, we also got another one, DJ, that came in a little after that. So obviously the big thing here is the visual. So customer asked, how do you set up that symbology for the fiber in particular to you know, kind of render that visual there on the map?
Setup questions. I like these. So I'm going to go over to my table of contents. And so what I was doing was I made a copy of my CrescentLink fiber cable layer over here. And to do that was very simple. You know, I'm in my table of contents, go down and find fiber cable. I'm going to right click and copy. I'm going to go up to layers and right click and paste layers. And this is basically, you know, giving me a duplicate of my normal. You can see my typical symbology I have broken down into whether it's proposed or existing, is whether it's red or blue. And then whether it's, you know, solid or two different types of dash for aerial, buried, or underground. Now, if I want to modify this to utilize the information that we did down here for our availability, all I'm going to do is go to my properties for that layer, go to the symbology tab. I'm already there. I'm going to choose my value to base off of. So let's say that I want to base it on the percent available. Well, here we go. Let's do color ramp here, graduated colors. That'll work better for us. So I'm going to go back to volume, go to percent available. Maybe I want to make sure that I have this flipped around. So the less percent I have available, it's red. And then you can see it ramps all the way up to green. Now, of course, I can go in and completely modify these. I can change how many of them there are, what the color ramp is, you know, what the range is, all of that, the thickness of the lines. But once I have that set, I can just hit apply and OK. And you can see then it's just as easy as turning that layer on and off. Now, of course, you know, for me, what I really wanted to know was very simple. What was more than 70%, you know, utilized? So I just utilized 2 of them there. But again, if you have any questions about any of that, feel free to reach out to us. And with that being said, we are starting to run a little low on time here. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my slides back up to make sure that I can get these to you. So first off, I have a slide here for some helpful links. I mentioned that, you know, we're going to be posting this to our YouTube channel as well as our video library. So there's a couple links there. If you are rewatching this video, of course, you can go back and pause the frames here. Also a link there to our support article on the fiber fill batch required fields. So the ones we were just looking at. And also another link there to our user guide, basically. So all of our other support articles. For any of you that aren't familiar, our support portal is open, has a lot of great articles, a lot of great content. And, you know, we'd love for you to go over there and take a look at that. Also have our citations here, but really want to get to this. So, you know, as we wrap things up here, first off, thank you all for spending the last half hour with us. We really appreciate it. You know, and as always, if you want to talk more about anything that we did here, a half an hour is quick. We can't get too deep on anything, but what we really want to do is kind of, you know, spawn thought and conversation. We'd love for you to reach out to us. So of course, if you have mine or Gray's contact information, you can reach out directly. Also, you can contact us at our office line here, 1-800-674-4803, or shoot us an email at sales@geograph.tech. We'd really love to talk and continue this conversation. Kind of, you know, if you have questions about how this might work for you and your organization, we can help you out with that. You know, we see a lot of different use cases. So thank you again, and, you know, really do appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you all soon. Enjoy the rest of your day and week.